Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I am here today at Uzina Mecanica Cugir, part of the old Romanian government small arms production complex, which is now an independent company that manufactures primarily heavy machine guns like the Dishka and the KPV, but also some smaller arms like the Model 98 Romanian service pistol and this, the LP7 submachine gun. So this came about starting in the mid-1990s. There was an interest in a submachine gun, and Cugir was specifically looking for a way to essentially leverage their A.K.M. production tooling to build something in the same sort of family, but in a 9mm. Something that many AK production facilities have done, and they all come up with slightly different takes on the 9mm AK submachine gun, and this one is particularly cool. So in 1996, the final draft of the prototype was ready. This was a slow-moving project, though, because it wasn't until 1998 that they had the first pre-production guns ready, and then series production didn't actually take place until 2003. So let's take a look at what they actually made, and then we'll talk about what happened to them. All right, so basic fundamentals here are a simple blowback 9mm action. However, it is a closed bolt firing hammer-fired system, and it is fundamentally built on an A.K.M. receiver. Now, Cugir decided to use slightly thicker than A.K.M. steel, so this is the RPK standard 1.5mm stamped steel for the receiver. For magazines, being Romanian, they essentially copied the Orita magazine. This was Romania's World War II submachine gun. It's a 30-round single-stack, double-feed magazine. And the magazine body here, as far as I can tell, is exactly the same as the Orita. It has a little bit of a different assembly on the back because they put an over-travel stop on it. But the magazine locking catch right here, I believe, is exactly at the same position as on the Orita. If it's not identical, it's really close. We have a release button right there, and then of course that over-travel stop prevents you from jamming the magazine in too far and damaging the feed lips. There is a side folding stock on here that is locked using this button that has the sling swivel. That's not a problem because you push this in to unlock the stock, not something you would be doing with the sling. Push that in, it unfolds, locks in place. To unlock it, you push the button again. And then the butt plate just has a simple friction spring. So it pops up or pops down. Now, interestingly, they gave this an extendable stock. And normally we would describe this as a collapsing stock. But the collapsing stock is kind of like the idea of it's a normal length and then you can shorten it up if you're wearing armor or something. The minimum length right there is long-ish and normal and appropriate, where the maximum length is for some sort of superhuman giant Romanian gendarme. I don't know who would use it this long, but it's an interesting element of the design there. The safety mechanism and the fire control group are straight off an AK, so it's hammer-fired, simple blowback, but hammer-fired. We have safe, full, and semi-auto selector settings. The rear sight is a flippable notch. Early prototypes actually had an aperture here, but they decided for production to switch to the notch, 50 and 100 meter settings. We also have a piece of Picatinny style rail there so that you could attach optics to it, which is nice. The front sight is a hooded AK type sight. Now there is a hole in this one because there's a button that's missing from this example. On the Model 98 Romanian pistols that were made by Cugir as well, around this same time frame, the police wanted to have a laser, a small diameter laser, about like that, on their pistols, and they integrated that same sort of thing into the LP7 submachine guns. So here's a second example where we actually have that button in place, and this button would, I believe, have been the locking button for the laser. So you can see it moves right there. So that allows you to take the laser in, lock the laser in, or remove it. Now, let's go ahead and disassemble this. It's a very simple process. This is our recoil spring, and I just have to push it into the right position, and the top cover will lift right off. You can see there's this round slot right there. The recoil spring, when pushed in, has a small diameter, so all you do is push the spring into that point and then you can lift the top cover off. This piece, by the way, is a fairly heavy-duty stamping. This is significantly heavier than a regular AKM top cover. It doesn't feel like it has really any flex to it at all, so it's going to hold zero, certainly well enough for a submachine gun. Now we just pull the recoil spring all the way through. It has a full-length, well, a long guide rod, but it's a guide rod that has a joint in it so that you can remove it. Spring is not captive though. And then I can just pull the bolt back to here, lift it up at the back, and slide it out. Now the firing pin is not in this example because this is sort of the exhibition demonstration model, but you can see this is very much taken from the regular AK bolt. It's much heavier mass, so it functions as a simple blowback. There's no gas system. And the ejection, it's a telescoping barrel, so similar in style to the Czech VZ 23 through 26 series. And by the way, those guns were in use here in Romania with the Patriotic Guard, so it's something that the engineers at Cugir guaranteed had seen. Whether they specifically copied this from the Czechs or not is anybody's guess. The concept is, not necessarily novel. But you just move the mass of the bolt forward so that you can keep the receiver relatively short. Next up, we can take off the handguard. We got 3 little socket head screws here. All right, take the 3rd screw out, and then the handguard slides forward. There's a little dovetail section of steel here riveted to the bottom that this fits onto. So it's a very simple molded polymer handguard. And then we have a little tab right there. Press that in and I can unscrew the barrel shroud. This is left-hand threaded like the normal threading you would get on an AK muzzle. And this is not threaded back here on the back of the barrel. It's threaded, stand by, up here at the front, just like you would have the threading for any other sort of AK muzzle device. So the threads are up in this portion of this combination barrel shroud and muzzle brake. You've got 2 ports there venting forward and up. And then the barrel is pressed and pinned in place just like a regular AKM. So that's the full length of your barrel. They've set the ejector at the appropriate length for 9mm parabellum. We have a totally standard AK fire control group in here, including a rate reducer, which will help keep the rate of fire down compared to most just really simple blowback 9mm subguns. There is the barrel grip nut down there, which locks, there's a nut inside the pistol grip here. Otherwise, this assembly is essentially just a pistol grip with an integrated trigger guard that comes all the way forward and is locked in place by the magazine release pin. So that's not coming out. I could unscrew the bolt here, but I can't take the plastic grip off easily, so we'll leave that in place. But I think it's pretty cool how they took totally a standard AK receiver, gave it a 9mm magazine well, and fitted a barrel with a new trunnion that doesn't involve a gas system. So there you go. There is the Cugir LP7, or Luger Parabellum 7, field stripped. It's a pretty darn simple gun. It's I think a really nice concept submachine gun, hammer-fired, closed bolt operation, and simple blowback. Now, while we're still looking at some disassembly, I want to point out this version that they also have here at Cugir, which only has 2 selector positions and was made with just a rear sling swivel instead of a side folding stock. This is a semi-automatic pistol version. And who knows, perhaps someday we will get these in the United States, because this is the sort of thing that could be imported into the US. So like I said, in 2003, series production began. There was only one significant contract thus far for the LP7, and that was for the Romanian Ministry of the Interior, specifically for the Romanian Gendarmerie. They purchased 200 of them. Now, interestingly, one of the Romanian Gendarmerie units actually deployed to Kosovo for peacekeeping operations with LP7s. So despite their very small production numbers, these did actually see military service. I don't know how much specific combat they saw in Kosovo, but they were deployed in military operations, and all accounts are they were pretty well liked. And I would, I've had much less experience with them than the gendarmes who carried them, but I would tend to agree with that assessment. So if you are watching on YouTube, that's the end of our video today. A big thanks to A.N.C.A, the Romanian Collectors Association, for making this visit possible, and of course to UMC, to Cugir, for sharing this with me to film for you guys. Now, like I said, we're going to go and do some shooting with this, but that, since this is a pretty cool submachine gun, that's something that I will not be putting on YouTube. You can catch the full-length video, the full cut, over on Patreon, on Player, on Floatplane, or ideally on History of Weapons and War, our video streaming service. I'll have links to all those in the description. Thanks for watching.